So in example 3 here, let's verify the trig identity. We have tangent of pi over 2 minus x is equal to cotangent of x. Well, so far we've really just looked at sine and cosine, haven't we? But we could do this using sine and cosine, because what do we know about tangent in terms of sine and cosine? It is sine over cosine. So if we're going to verify, remember that's where we're going to work one side. And do you want to work the left or the right? The left. And so I'm going to do this because the left's going to take up a little bit more room. So I'm going to give myself some room there. All right. So you already told me that tangent was sine over cosine. So this means this is sine of pi over 2 minus x over cosine of pi over 2 minus x.
We have a question.
Yes.
In the formulas, you know how it has the theta in it?
Uh-huh.
Is that the same as x or no?
Yeah.
It is? There's literally a function formula that says tangent of pi over 2 minus theta is equal to cotangent of theta.
Right, but it said to verify that it's true. So we know this is true. We just got to prove it.
But I just verified it. They're the same.
No, you can't say it just because it told me so. You have to show me that it really does work out. Good try, though. All right. So, do you see on top? I'm just going to write this over here. So, on top, we have what? Sine of pi over 2 minus x? Well, that would be sine of two things being subtracted, isn't it? So, we can use our difference of signs formula, which tells me sine of u, which is pi over 2, cosine of v, which is x, minus cosine of u, which is pi over 2, times sine of v, which is our x. Now, the only angle we actually have there is pi over 2, isn't it? So that's the only one I'm really going to be able to replace anything for. But what is our ordered pair at pi over 2? It's up at the top.
0.
It's a 0, 1. So here's my cosine, and here's my sine, right? So what is sine of pi over 2? Times cosine of x. Minus, what's cosine of pi over 2?
0.
Times sine of x.
Wait, why did you use pi?
Oh, I said pi over 2, but the over 2 didn't take. Sorry. I must not have hit the screen hard enough. Thank you for catching that, because I didn't look up and see it. So what is 1 times cosine? So we have cosine of x minus what's 0 times sine of x.
0.
And so what does that give us? Cosine of x. So we know that this right here then is equal to cosine of x. All right. Come over here and do a little work. So on the bottom, we have cosine of pi over 2 minus x. So that's my u and my v. So I know the formula is cosine of pi u, which is pi over 2, cosine of v, that is x, has a plus sign, sine of u, which is pi over 2, times sine of v, which is x. I wrote too big at the beginning. All right, we're using that same angle, aren't we? So what is cosine of pi over 2? What? 0 times cosine of x plus, what is sine of pi over 2? Times sine of x. And 0 times cosine is plus 1 times sine of x. And what does that give us? So we know that denominator then equals sine of x. I guess I didn't have to scoot that way over because I was going to write that over there, but I think it's easier looking at it kind of to the side instead of a whole bunch of stuff on top of each other. And what is cosine over sine? And so we just proved that this was equal to cotangent of x.